Hi everybody, welcome to Safari Escapes with Kelly. Thanks for joining me today. I have Beks and Ndlovu from African Bush Camps joining me. Hi Beks, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Kelly. I'm doing good. I'm doing good considering hunkering down in Cape Town where I've been the last 4 months. But I'm grateful that winter's decided to be very kind to us, despite the fact that it's normally quite brutal in this part of the world. So I guess that's a small little win. Um, I miss COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, glad you're keeping warm and keeping busy. So Bex, kicking off our little chat that we have today, I was wanting to ask you about your background. And obviously you in Lipani near Wangi National Park, and building the empire that ABC is, and you becoming a guide. First off, was that obviously, was that all influenced from where you grew up and childhood, being so close to the national park and the wildlife? Did that have a big influence on that?
Yeah, Kelly, I guess I guess many kids from a very early childhood, I don't think many kids really know what they want to do or what the grand scope of things that they might want to do, because there's so much to do out there. And I guess some kids grow up having parents give them some kind of expectation, but I honestly had no expectation from my parents. And like most of the kids in sort of my year, we all applied to different universities, applied to different companies for apprenticeships, for all sorts of things. But it was actually the last 2 years of my high school that it became crystal clear that perhaps there is an opportunity to start carving out a career out of tourism through guiding. And tourism is not something that I grew up with, even though I grew up in Lupani, which is just outside of Wangi National Park. And I lived in Wangi Town, which is a coal mining village for many years. I always had an intrigue for wildlife. I had an intrigue for national parks, like what is happening in that space. But I think I only got to really experience what that career looked like during school holidays when I did volunteer work in certain safari camps. And I got a little bit of an insight into what safaris are about and what guiding is about. When I discovered that I could go and learn out in the field, out in nature, as opposed to go to university and learn between four walls, I was really super happy to have that as an option. So I didn't even wait for my exam, A-level exams, as we call them back then. I just got out and immediately moved into the bush as soon as I got my driver's license. So I've never really turned back since then.
Yeah, wow, beautiful. That's an amazing story. And nice to hear. I think in Zim, we are so lucky here having the bush on our doorstep. And I think a lot of kids, especially at 18, if you have the option to be outdoors as opposed to, like you say, in four walls, they jump at the opportunity. So that's very, very cool. And now Bex, obviously dealing with talking about ABC and all the different camps and having them throughout 3 different countries, I can only imagine how difficult it must be with the rules and the regulations of COVID and everything that's happening. It's got to be stressful. And obviously you guys opening up a new camp in Botswana as well. That's just a whole nother thing as well, dealing with that. Maybe you can fill us in and how things are going.
Yeah, look, it's always been an operational challenge to operate between 3 countries, and also with a sales and marketing base out of South Africa and Cape Town. But it goes about just having the right people, managing the right teams on the ground, and that's been a huge, big saving. One of my business partners is the operations director and deals with the operational side of the business in those jurisdictions, and he does a pretty good job. And beneath him, he's got very good GMs in country, and that's made a huge, big difference. But during this period of time, what we've had to deal with is different regulations in terms of the treatment of staff and the treatment of the whole lockdown. Zambia didn't formally go into a lockdown per se. So that brings in a whole different discussion as to how we deal with the downsizing of the number of people in the camps, Does it become a voluntary thing for people to sit at home? So, these discussions are ones that you dialogue and consult with your staff. And we pretty much did the same for all three countries. But where the complications also comes in, Kelly, is in the uncurling, as we call it, where we begin to expect our first guests since COVID. Obviously, the borders are all still closed. So we're opening up and encouraging the local market to travel as much as possible. And that's going to be a true test of what we've been preparing for over the last few weeks. We've been doing a lot of upskilling and training our staff how to conduct themselves, how to behave, how to prepare during the pandemic and during this time of COVID, which we see as not a snapshot, but rather it's the whole era of COVID, which is going to continue for some time. So yeah, it's I guess the frustrating thing is just having to deal with the different unclear rules and regulations, policies, guidelines, and amongst the whole lockdown things, are people allowed to move? Aren't they allowed to move? Do they need a permit to move into the various places? So those are the teething stages for all of us, and also for our governments, I think, as they try and wrap their heads around how they can best let us all operate, open the borders, because our tourism economies, like many other industries, are really hurting. How do we open up and uncurl and start to welcome people back so that we can manage the situation? As I've said, the principal driver, I think, of dealing with COVID-19 should not be from one side, which is just the side of saving lives. Lives really matter. The deaths as a result of it is of great concern. And we really, sympathize and feel for people that have lost loved ones. There is also those that have been equally hit with poverty, where actually it's poverty that will end up meaning people lose their lives. So we've got to also look at the economy, how that impacts on people's lives every day. And as I say, particularly, I think as a developing continent, we've come quite a long way into dealing with some of the diseases that are termed poor country diseases, and such as TB and pneumonia and various things that are just really associated with people that are living below the poverty line, diabetes, things that have over time become quite manageable. We worry that all of those things are not being addressed during this time because of the time that it's given to COVID. But there's also mental health, which could have far-lasting consequences than COVID itself. Yeah. So these are the things that we obviously worry about and try to address through our staff, through our teams, and hopefully we'll have an impact of those in our communities as we continue to work with them on various community projects that we're committed to. So we are looking in Zimbabwe, hopefully to open and welcome our first guests into camp in September the 1st. And in Botswana, we hope to do that by mid-August. And Zambia, somewhere in between there, we're still consulting with various other stakeholders, and obviously we'll have to go into the stage of consulting with our staff to see how people are comfortable going back to work. But I would say for the most part, people are very keen to get back to work and get stuck in. And with much improved, well thought through protocols that will limit any risk or exposures of COVID-19 to our guests, and of course the other way around to our staff as well. I believe that it's time.
Yeah, good. Well, that is fantastic to hear, and so nice and positive. Obviously, yeah, as you say, there's uncertainty around all of this, and yeah, just all the industries and the governments and everyone trying to, find a way through. It's tricky. So yeah, I guess we just carry on, and that's really good news to hear, and exciting, yeah, for Zim and Bots and Zambia. And obviously the new camp. And I mean, is the camp pretty much finished and ready to go?
Yeah, Kelly, that's our camp in Botswana, north of Moremi on the outskirts of the Okavango, Kwai Lidwood. We were supposed to open the camp in June. It's a much anticipated camp. Unfortunately for that camp, we were actually going to open it build and open it about 4 years ago, and it encountered some problems back then. So we're very anxious to get out there and open the camp. It's complete, it's finished, and it's ready for occupation. There's a couple of other inspections that it needs to go through for licensing, which we haven't been able to have done during this period of lockdown. But other than those, it's good to go. And it's probably the first place that I'll travel to as soon as we can fly around and the borders open.
Oh, good. That's very exciting to hear. And you'll give us a little tour, and I'm sure you'll update everyone once you're there, which will be great. Beks, you touched on obviously community projects, and obviously this is a topic. Conservation has come up hugely in the last few months, with obviously no tourism and no tourism dollar supporting these projects. It's been very tricky. And I mean, you've got the ABC Foundation, which do incredible work, as well as CW, which I know is also a huge part of ABC and all the guys in Wangi. So I mean, I can only imagine also that must be quite tricky, but you guys are doing really well and managing to maintain and look after the wildlife, as well as all the foundation projects. Things on that front going all right?
Yeah, I mean, as all right as we can get them to be all right. Tourism at the end of the day is the principal driver for conservation and community upliftment. The two go hand in hand. And our principle is that you've got tourism on one side, and then you've got conservation. And under conservation, communities become a very integral part of that. So really, we are in the business of tourism and conservation, and under which communities are very important. And when I say that tourism is the principal driver of conservation and community, is that we should unapologetically inspire the rest of the world globally to assist us through A, traveling to our destination, and B, through donating and becoming getting involved as part of the programs that we have rolling out in these communities, and also some of the conservation projects. Because, I always say that the wildlife is at our doorstep in Africa, and we are the custodians of these vast wilderness places and the wildlife that's in them. We have a responsibility towards our communities, who are also the custodians of these wilderness areas and the wildlife therein. And because we live with this in such close proximity to these wilderness areas and the wildlife, it doesn't mean that we own them. These are global assets of significance ecologically. And what it means is that we are quite happy to partner together with our international friends globally to ensure that what we refer to as the global health lungs that will keep this environment and keep our planet healthy is that collaboration and that partnership. But we need to get involved in making sure we all do our bit. And we can do that largely through tourism, through exposing people and getting them involved and raising that awareness to future generations and to other communities that aren't aware of the immediate and imminent threats to some of the cultures, the wilderness areas, and of course to our wildlife. So that's what we try to address with African Bush Camps Foundation, where in principle, every location where camps are, starting with our staff, we partner with the local communities in order to address these topical issues.
Yeah. Amazing. I mean, I think we're very lucky in the tourism industry. We have a wide network of people across the world, and people who work with us who have been to Africa and have fallen in love with it, and they are just as passionate as we are here on the ground. And they are, I mean, I feel like they across the world, we've got them, pushing for the everything that we need as well to keep all these incredible projects that are going, and they're the voices that are happening across the world, which is just so nice to hear and see. Obviously, the ABC Foundation, you guys are the ones that are actually physically doing the work on the ground. So it's just amazing to see, and nice and positive to hear that things are still, moving along and haven't come to a standstill.
So Kelly, I just want to comment that you have the most beautiful Hughlings robin singing away in your garden back there. It's very good to hear. Lovely. Wow. I moved that out of Loeo and Harare Gardens. But just to touch on what you said earlier on about our international friends out there, it's one thing that has really stood out for us as an organization is that our efforts into making sure that we partner with people of like mind who are on the ready to really collaborate in ensuring that we target the conscious traveler who's really going to make a massive difference to the work that we do on the ground. It becomes very, very important so that people are aware when they spend, when they choose a destination, where they spend their hard-earned money. And just purely by traveling, they make such a significant difference. And then there's a contribution level that people make once they're on the ground. And that contribution level speaks to the level of sensitivity which the people that we deal with, particularly the trade, has really sensitized those people to understand that you're going to one of the African bush camps. We're choosing this destination because these people are responsible in the areas that they operate, and these are some of the projects that they're doing. So when people arrive, they're arriving with their eyes open, and I think that's key. And I think that the trade has that level of responsibility to be able to educate people out there and make them aware that there are some imminent issues with our planet, and particularly our part of the world. And if they're going to come this side, they need to be able to see the big difference and contribution that they're making, and make sure that they're aware of what more they could do and what could be done, and really partner with us, not just as a short-term thing, but really as a long-term initiative. So that's become very, very apparent for us, that the conscious traveler, the conscious person in the trade who really cares, those I think are the long-lasting, sustainable partnerships that we're looking to grow in the future. And certainly your organization are involved and have done a good stuff. Your founder, Luke, and his brother, through Conservation Games, which is a great initiative. I think it's tools like that that have come out of this period of time that are so encouraging, that we're really hoping will take the limelight in the future, so that the tourism aspect of it is seen as equal as to the conservation and community portion of it.
I agree 100%. It really is. It's amazing, that you say that. It is maybe one real positive thing that has come out of all of this, is that the drive for a better future and for our planet and conservation and community and travel, combine everything. It's really exciting, and I hope, like you say, hopefully it will change the future, but in a good way. Yeah. Good. Now, Beks, lastly, I was actually going to test your birding skills until until you picked up my birds in the garden there. But I wanted to actually see if you could remember a couple of things from your guiding days, and test your knowledge, which will be quite fun. One of the things
my guiding days, I need to warn you that my guiding days were a long time ago, and since then I've been eclipsed by some remarkable guides who have said to me, you need to step aside, for the real guide. So, so yes, I'll attempt to try and answer and try and dig back into my memory days of my guiding. Go ahead.
Okay. I won't be too harsh, I don't think. So I wanted to ask you, if you can recognize what this sound is. What animal is this? Any idea?
Yeah, that sounds like a jackal.
Ah, yes, well done. Amazing. Good memory, Beks. Good memory.
Thank you for being very kind.
Okay, then I have one more that I wanted to do as well. Do you think you could make the sound, the call of a nightjar by any chance?
So I don't know which nightjar, because there are quite a few of them. But the one I enjoy the most is.
Oh wow!
There's nothing more, I think, appealing than sitting around a campfire, glass glass of wine under the stars, hearing sounds of elephants and jackals, and then just piercing the night, the call of the nightjar. So yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite calls at night.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was. That's why I asked you. I actually, luckily enough, have one in my garden in the evenings, which often calls, and it just takes me to the bush and reminds me of that beautiful sound. So well done. That was spot on, Beks. I'm impressed. Oh, sweet.
Thanks,
Well,
Kelly.
Beks, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really great to see you and to catch up and to chat. And yeah, here's some really good positive things coming from ABC and yourself. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me, Kelly. And yeah, always good to see you. And I can't wait to see you next time in person, either on Safari or at one of the shows or back in Vic Falls.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely, yeah, hopefully sooner rather than later. Thanks, Beks. And thanks everybody else for joining in. And we'll catch up with you soon. See you next time. Cheerio.